curious minds, welcome to ProjexCellence ProDigy, your one-stop solution for all your project management needs. I'm Govind, PMP certified, and today we are diving into a topic that can make or break a project, project communication management. Think about this. A well-planned project with poor communication is like a soccer team with no coordination. Everyone is running, but no one knows where the goal is. In project management, effective communication ensures that the right message reaches the right people at the right time. In this lesson, we will explore types of communication: verbal, non-verbal, written, formal, informal, and more. The 5 C's of written communication, communication methods and models from basic sender-receiver models to interactive and cross-cultural communication. Let's get started. Communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, or emotions between individuals or groups through various mediums. It can be verbal or non-verbal, written or spoken, formal or informal, and may involve different channels like face-to-face interaction, emails, phone calls, or visual representations. To make the communication effective, we need to choose the best type which suits to the situation. Here, we have 6 main categories of communication. Formal written communication. This is official and structured communication, often recorded for the future reference. For example, a project manager sends a detailed project status report to stakeholders via official email. Next is formal verbal communication, means official spoken communication used in professional settings, such as a project manager giving a project update in a company meeting. Next is informal written communication. This is casual and unstructured written communication, like sending a WhatsApp message to a friend about weekend plans. Next is informal verbal communication. This is casual spoken communication used in everyday conversation, like during lunchtime chatting with colleagues about weekend trips. Non-verbal communication. This is the way of conveying messages through gestures, facial expressions, and body language. For example, smiling to show happiness or giving a thumbs up to approve an idea. Another example could be a project manager notices a team member avoiding eye contact in a meeting, so which shows he is uncomfortable with the decision. Next is visual communication, means using images, charts, or videos to share the information. For example, a project planner shares a Gantt chart to visually show the project timeline and dependencies. Next topic is 5 C's of written communication. What are these? Clarity, conciseness, coherence, correctness, and courtesy. Clarity, the message should be clear and easy to understand, avoiding any kind of ambiguity or confusion. Let's take the example of our solar power plant project. You are project manager and you need additional manpower at site. So in this case, instead of saying we need more workers on site, we can say it clearly. We require 5 additional electricians at the solar panel mounting section by 9 a.m. on Monday to complete the wiring task. So it's a very clear message. Second C is conciseness. The message should be brief and to the point without unnecessary details or repetition. We have one scenario here. Due to continuous rain over the past few days, our installation work has slowed down significantly and we might not be able to meet the deadline. This is the scenario. So instead of saying this long story, we have to be concise and say, heavy rain has delayed installation. We need a 2-day extension to stay on schedule. Very concise. Third C is the coherence. The message should be logical and well structured so that it flows naturally and makes sense. For example, a project report should follow a logical order from objectives, work completed, current progress, challenges faced, and so on, instead of jumping the randomly between the topics. Fourth C is correctness. The message should be accurate, grammatically correct, and free from errors or misleading information. For example, let's say we have one sentence. Each solar panel produces 1.5 kilowatt of power. This is incomplete and incorrect information. So instead, we can say each solar panel has a peak output of 400 watt under standard test conditions. And the total plant capacity is 20 megawatt consisting of 50,000 panels. Last C is courtesy. The message should be polite, respectful, and considerate of the audience's perspective. Instead of saying, you haven't sent the daily progress report yet, I need it now, we can say, could you please share today's progress report at your earliest convenience? It will help us update the project status for stakeholders. Next topic is communication models. Communication models help us understand how messages are sent, received, and understood. Basic sender-receiver model, we call it linear communication as well. This model is a basic one which focuses on message delivery, whether the receiver understood the message or not. The process is very simple. Here we can see encode, transmit, and decode. First, the sender initiates the message by encoding it into a form that can be transmitted. It could be text, speech, or gesture. Then it gets transmitted through a channel, either by email or phone or any other medium. In between, it may face the noise or disturbances, which will affect the clarity of message. And decode, the receiver receives and interprets the message. Let's understand it with one example. Sending a text message. You typed a message to your friend on your phone. The message was meeting at 10 a.m. means encoding. So you sent it via WhatsApp, which is the transmitting channel. If the receiver's phone has poor network coverage or notifications are off, he might not receive it immediately. So that called noise. And decode is what the receiver reads and interprets the message. In this basic model, the sender only ensures that the message is sent, but there is no confirmation that it was understood correctly by the receiver. Second model is interactive communication model. Here, two components are added, acknowledgement and feedback, to ensure the message is understood. So the basic process, encode, transmit, and decode, will remain the same as basic sender-receiver model. Now, the receiver will send the acknowledgement to the sender for the receipt of message. Another term is the feedback. The receiver will encode his response and send, and sender will receive the message and decode it. If the feedback matches the intended message, so communication is successful. So let's understand this concept with one example. A manager is assigning a task to an employee. So manager is as a sender. So he writes one message, please complete the project report by Friday. So the receiver, the employee, acknowledge and write back, got it. So this confirms received but does not mean understanding. So then he will encode his feedback here. Do you want it in PowerPoint or Word format? So then finally the sender clarifies PowerPoint would be the best. Noise in this case, if the employee is distracted or misunderstand the deadline, so miscommunication may occur. So in this model, communication is a two-way process where acknowledgement and feedback ensures the clarity of communication. The third one is cross-cultural communication model. Along with interactive model, it considers personal and cultural factors as well, which affect the communication because the people from different background interpret the messages differently based on the language, culture, and personal experiences. So both senders and receivers are affected by their own culture, emotions, professional background, gender, and personal biases. These factors influence how the message is framed, interpreted, and understood. And the noise here are like language barriers, cultural differences, emotional state, and technological issue. Let's suppose a project manager from the US is communicating with a supplier from Japan. And project manager from US asks, can you deliver the equipment by next week? So then supplier from Japan, he replies, we will try our best. So what could be the possible misinterpretation here? In US business culture, we will try our best may be understood as a yes or a strong commitment. While in Japanese business culture, this phrase often means it might not be possible, but we don't want to say no directly. So the key communication challenges are the manager assumes the supplier has agreed, but the supplier actually means there is uncertainty, but they avoid direct refusal due to the cultural norms. So different cultures have different communication styles, and without awareness, misunderstandings can happen even when both parties are speaking the same language. And particularly in this case, it could have been avoided if project manager has asked the explicit confirmation. Like, just to clarify, does this mean you can 100% deliver by next week? So it would certainly help avoiding misunderstanding. Next topic is communication methods. Communication methods refer to how information is shared between individuals or groups in a project. The first method is interactive communication. In this method, two-way exchange of information happens, where both the sender and receiver actively participate. It ensures that the message is understood through direct interaction. For example, a project manager holds a meeting with team members to discuss the project progress. So participants ask questions and provide feedback. So they are actively interacting with each other. This type of communication is most effective when a subject is difficult to understand or requires detailed explanation. So the interactive communication ensures the clarity of message. It allows participants to ask questions, seek clarifications, and resolve misunderstandings immediately. Another situation, if immediate feedback is needed, means project requires quick decision making and waiting for responses via email or reports is inefficient. So we will use the interactive communication. Another case, if collaboration is essential, when multiple people need to contribute ideas, interactive communication fosters teamwork and ensures all viewpoints are considered. Next method is push communication. This method involves sending information to the receiver without expecting an immediate response. The receiver may read or acknowledge it later. For example, a project manager sends a weekly status report to stakeholders. Or let's say a memos, a company-wide notice about policy change is shared with employees. Push communication is best when the message is not urgent but needs to be documented. The information must reach multiple people. Instead of calling everyone individually, an email efficiently delivers the same message to all recipients at once and when interaction is not needed. Another method is pull communication. This method makes information available for the receiver to access when needed, rather than sending it directly. The responsibility is on the receiver to retrieve it. For example, employees can access project guidelines anytime, or a project team stores technical documentation in a shared folder. Pull communication is best when large volume of information need to be stored. So instead of sending large files via email, which may cause confusion or version control issues, storing them in a centralized repository, which will ensure all information is organized and accessible. Next topic is communication channel. Communication channel refers to the pathway or link through which information flows between stakeholders in a project. The number of communication channels in a project increases as the number of stakeholders grows, making the communication more complex. The total number of communication channels in a project is calculated using this simple formula. Number of channels is equal to n minus 1 whole by 2. So where n is the number of stakeholders. So let's assume a project has 6 stakeholders. So we can calculate here by this formula 6 minus 1 whole divided by 2. 30 by 2 is 15. So total number of communication channel in this case will be 15. So what are the importance of calculating communication channel? It helps in managing the complexity. So as the number of team members increases, the number of communication channels grows exponentially. So by calculating these channels, project managers can anticipate and manage the complexity of communication. Resource allocation. Understanding the number of communication channels help in allocating resource effectively. Project managers can ensure that there are enough tools and processes in place to facilitate the smooth communication. It will help in risk mitigation. So more communication channels can lead to increased chances of miscommunication. So by being aware of the number of channels, project managers can implement strategies to mitigate communication risk. Efficiency improvement. Knowing the communication channels allows project managers to streamline communication processes, which ensures that information is shared efficiently and effectively among team members. And stakeholder management. Effective communication is key to stakeholder management. So by calculating communication channels, project managers can ensure that all stakeholders are kept informed and engaged throughout the project lifecycle. So that's all for now. I hope you have enjoyed the content and the delivery. Let's take a short break and I'll return soon with more project management material. Before we part ways, I'd like to ask you to kindly show your support by liking and subscribing to my channel. Your engagement means a lot to me. Namaste, goodbye, Sampai Jumpa.